In this topic, we'll focus on how to use the federal e-filing and reporting task to e-file or print your 1094 and 1095 forms. Before you begin, be sure you have accurately set up all the ACA information in Sage 100, using both ACA Employer Maintenance and ACA Employee Maintenance, and that you have run the ACA Applicable Large Employer Report. The Atrix e-filing preparer, called by the federal e-filing and reporting task, will pull this information from Sage 100, so it's best if the information is accurate before you start. Please be sure to consult with your tax advisor when preparing the ACA information. Once you are in the Atrix e-filing preparer, you can make changes, but that information will not be written back into Sage 100. It's best to make the changes in Sage 100 if possible. If you do make changes in the preparer, you can go back later and make the same changes in Sage 100. So let's get started with e-filing. Select Payroll, Period End, Federal e-filing and reporting. Note that Federal is selected and select the correct form. We're going to do C's as the example. And Accept. If you have not processed any ACA filings for the current year, you can choose to do a test drive to learn about the processes and to see how your information looks. You can choose to run the test drive on your first 25 employees or on all of your employees. If you run the test drive, you cannot save any of the information that you input. Just a note, it's possible that the screens that you see in this training may be slightly different from what you see, but the basic process should be very similar. If you have questions during this process, use the help or contact Atrix. And for tax advice, contact your tax advisor. So we're going to use the test drive for 25 of our employees. To be honest, I have not pulled in a full 25 employees, so some of the data won't match up with the number of employees it says that I have, but this is just a demonstration. So next. This screen should show the federal tax employer identification number pulled from your accounting software. If the FEIN is incorrect, you must return to Sage 100 to correct it. Next. The company information from this screen is automatically populated from ACA Employer Maintenance. You will need to manually fill in the contact name and phone number. You can change information on this window, but it won't be saved back to your accounting program. Select the type of filer you are, and we're filing for our company. On this screen, if you had selected in the ACA Employer Maintenance that you are a designated government entity, a DGE, the option is automatically selected here. And we have it selected so you can see the screen that would appear, which is here. And again, the information is pulled from Sage 100. We're going to go back because I am filing for my company employer. On this screen, you'll choose how to truncate Social Security numbers on the employee copy of the 1095 form. All Social Security numbers display on the screen. The truncation is applied to printed copies only. So in the top half, you indicate how you would like to truncate the employee number. And if you have no truncation, then you have the choice down here how you're going to truncate the Social Security numbers for covered individuals of the employee, like spouses or children. So if no truncation is here, you can choose either one down here. However, if you choose something up here, let's say we're going to do the X's, then that same choice will automatically appear for the covered individuals. This screen is important for companies or tax preparers that keep separate databases for employees working under the same federal EINs. If you select yes, you'll be taken to screens that allow you to merge the multiple payroll data files. And that doesn't apply to us, so we're going to say next. This is simply a notification that we're in test drive mode. We say OK. The preparer does some error checking of your settings. If you have settings that don't match, you might get an error message such as this. This one says section 4980H transitional relief information exists even though you haven't selected certification of eligibility. So if you look down here, this has not been selected, which is this reporting to, but it's saying we have information about that. Now, let's real quick go back to Sage 100. If when we look in employer maintenance and pull up our company, we'll notice here are the certifications of eligibility. And we have these two selected, but we don't have this one selected. So I want you to notice this too, because again, if you have not selected the appropriate ones here, but you have information about it, it may not pull in your information well. So just be sure that this is correct. So we're done looking at that. So here you have two choices. You can say OK to remove the information, or you can select cancel to have that selected down there. Well, I know I want to choose OK, so we're going to do that. This window reflects the employer information populated from the Sage 100 ACA Employer Maintenance Task and the ACA ALE report. Let's take a moment to look at the layout and navigation of the window. First, at the top of the window, you'll see a status bar, which lets you know what step in the process you're on. When you have completed the page, you'll use the Next button to move forward, or if you have a previous page, to move back. And then we see the Save button. Now, because we're in test mode, the Save is not available. You can't save information here, but if you were in the real mode, you could save and come back later to where you had left off. There's the Help button. Let's look at the website, the Help website. I wanted you to see the Atrix support numbers. If you have troubles in this software, you should contact the Atrix support as opposed to the 100 support, because they are the ones familiar with the program and the issues you might find here. If you need tax information, either consult the IRS website or your tax advisor. Then we have the right-hand panel here. There are tips. Now they automatically cycle through, but you can cycle through using the arrows. If there's a tip you want more information on, you just click here. It will take you to a web page. You can also hover over the blue highlighted areas and get more information, and they have a click to follow. See, there's various places like this. Now, there are several things in this right panel, including errors, and if you need more room, you can say show less, so the tips get smaller and you have more room for your errors. These buttons are functions that are available on various windows. They aren't available here, but when they are, they'll be highlighted. And errors are here, and when you click on an error, it will take you directly to where it is, but it's also, they're red highlighted here because we need to fill in these check marks, and we haven't yet. Before we leave the side panel totally, you can make it smaller so you can see more of the screen. And finally, if you need to make other changes, like to the company information that we already filled out, you just click this and it would take you back to the company information so you could make changes as you needed. I'm going to scroll over so you can see what's over here. This information comes from running your applicable large employer report. Now you notice there's an employee count of 60 here, and I've only pulled in 5 employees, but this is the test run, so that's not a problem. Again, this information is pulled from Sage 100, which you've put in there for your company definition. But we need to fill out this. Is this the authoritative transmittal for this EIN? And we're going to say yes. Are all employees included in this EIN? Yes. Now, there are certain situations where you may have more than one transmittal, and that's where you would use these other buttons, and it would provide the selections you needed to fill out. Is this employer a member of an ALE group? And we've selected yes, so we could show you this screen. And if you would need to say how many employees are from each company. So we're going to edit the company and put in 2 employees for this company, edit company, and 3 employees for this company. Okay, close. Now, if you said no, you wouldn't have to do that. So here are the certifications of eligibility. Again, these are pulled in from Sage 100, and you should verify all this information. and then we go to Next. Let's take a moment to go back. Note here, if you are making changes directly here, you can either use the all year box or individual months. You cannot use both. So if it applies for all year, you click all year and fill it in. If you need to do it by month because you had a different number of total employees, you would do it by month. The information in this window is populated automatically from the ACA Employee Maintenance window. The employee selected in the top here, their information is reflected in detail down here. And you can work either here, and for each employee, then there's information here. And you can scroll this way, and you can do this, or you can do that. You can also notice the name of the employee shows here, so you can always keep track of who you're working on. You can make it bigger, smaller, whichever area you're working in and what works for you. I want you to notice that the Add Employee and Remove Employee buttons over on this panel are now highlighted, so you can add and remove employees that way. You can do it through the Edit button. Through rows, you can add employee, add multiple employees, remove employee, and remove multiple employees. Or you can do it here. Add multiple. Let's add a couple. You want to add 2 employees. Okay, and we realize we really don't need those, so rows, let's remove multiple employees. And so we just select the ones that we don't want and say OK. There we go. Let's see how an error works here. Okay, you notice I've changed the Social Security number. We get an error. And if I click here, it automatically places my cursor where I have the problem. It's also highlighted up here if you like to work up here, but the cursor is already down here and ready to go. So we're going to backspace and put that back to what it was before, and the error goes away. I forgot to mention that you can navigate from one employee row to the other using these buttons, or if you want to go automatically to the top, or automatically to the bottom, and that's very convenient to have. Just a reminder, you can use the all year field or individual months, but you can't use both. Also, I want to point out there's a plan start month. This is not currently required for the year 2015, so you will not have an error if you do not have that filled in. If your employee is going to electronically receive their forms, this can be checked. Again, that can be input from Sage 100. One more navigation thing to be aware of is that you can sort. There it is. You can sort by any field, and I wanted to show you that the group ID, which is used by Sage 100, is available to sort on. So you can sort by group ID, or you can sort. So you just select the row and say sort on it. This is also available up in the edit area. I'm going to sort by last name and edit, sort rows. And so it's going to sort by that. So that's useful. Also, if there's information you want to enter that or import, let's say perhaps you hadn't collected email addresses and you want to have them inputted, you can import a CSV file. For information on how to do that, refer to the help. Okay, let's move on to the next screen. And this contains the employee covered individuals information. This information is populated from the ACA Employee Maintenance Covered Individuals window in Sage 100. If the employee does not have any, you can add them here. But again, remember, this will not be reflected back into Sage 100. So notice that for this employee, there's one covered individual, which is the employee, and the employee is always grayed out. Let's look at another employee. She has 2 covered individuals, and the employee is grayed out, but the covered individuals are dark. If you try and add a date of birth to someone who already has a Social Security number, you will get an error. You can't have both a Social Security and a date of birth. If you have both in Sage 100, it will automatically pull the Social Security number because that's the preferred method. So again, to correct an error, you can just click there. It'll highlight the field that needs to be corrected. Now you'll notice for covered individuals, because you can have several errors in one area, it's not quite the same. You'll have to go find it. It is highlighted, and delete it. And there you go. Because the errors are by employee, and so if you could have several errors within the different covered individuals. So you can add covered individual, you can remove these on a larger screen. Let me see if we can make it happen here. Nope. Will occur side by side, and you'll have 2 tabs. And so even though you're working in covered individuals, you could choose to do employee as well if you needed to change something on the employee. Okay, on to the next screen. And this is the employee electronic delivery. And you notice how the program has brought the focus to the area of interest. The color is slightly different, and so it's allowing you to check who has electronic only filing and to see if they have email addresses. Now, an email address is not required to have electronic delivery. Access letters can be printed or emailed. At the end, the wizard will ask which way you want to provide access letters to your employees with electronic delivery, and it can be either by email or by printed letter. Now, we can add an email address here. As I mentioned before, if you were missing email addresses and you had a file that you wanted to import, you could do that. So there's many different ways to take care of this. Again, it's not a required field. You will not get an error for not having an email address. Let's go to the next screen. Now we have an error here. We see a highlighted area up there. It's possible that you could see this error. If you have the code 1A for the coverage offer, this needs to be blank and not a number. I believe the software has been changed since my release, but in case it hasn't, you'll know that you can do that. But if for any reason your code and any of the other fields are not working together appropriately, this is the type of error you'll see. So I got sidetracked on the error, but this is the employee coverage area. This is where you make sure that the coverage offered and the share and all this is correct. Again, this is being pulled in from the ACA Employee Maintenance monthly detail. Again, you'll want to make sure that you use only either the all year or the various months. Now, let's say we decided to delete an employee. And we're going to move on now to the next screen. And we see the error here, noting that the number of employees we now have differs from what we showed on the first screen. So we can return to step 1 to correct that, or we can continue because this is really the employee count that we want. We had an error in there before. So we're going to continue. With this screen, Atrix is telling you the advantage of using complete e-filing service. And there's more detailed information about that. Okay, we're going to choose the complete filing service. Now you have a chance to review the forms. As it says there, to change data on the forms, you'll close the form viewer and return to the ACA preparer that we just left. Now you have access to see the actual forms, and if you want to print a copy, you print here, or you proceed to the next step. If you are printing the forms, the Federal 1094 form should be printed on plain paper. The Federal 1095 form is printed on plain paper. The employee version of the 1095 forms need to be printed on pre-printed 1095 forms that you order, because they have pre-printed instructions that must be on the back. So next, We're not going to print it this time. Same for all the forms. You have the choice to print a copy and to then go to next step. There's the back. And since we're in test drive, we're not going to go any further, but at this point you would go into actual e-filing. If you're filing the B forms, the process is essentially the same. You'll select Federal E-Filing and Reporting and simply select the B form and proceed. A reminder that the data for the B forms is only available from Sage 100 version 2014 and higher. Let's take a quick look at the different screens you'd see if you are filing for the B forms. During the ACA Setup Wizard, the windows are the same. When you get to the informational screens, there are 4 steps. Step 1 is employee contact information. The same navigation features are available on these screens. Keep in mind that only employees with ACA statuses of full-time or not exempt on the Employee Setup ACA Coverage tab will be included. So it's not necessary to remove employees here that have a status of exempt or not working. Again, as before, if you need to import employee information into this grid, you can do so. For more details, see the help. Step 2 is Policy Origin Code. This information is populated automatically from ACA Employee Maintenance in Sage 100 versions 2014 and above. Step 3 are the employee covered individuals, and this information comes from Employee Maintenance Covered Individuals window. Step 4 is the employee electronic delivery, and that's from Employee Maintenance Tax Status 1095 Electronic Consent. Just as for the C forms, then you will be led to the various choices for printing and e-filing and have the ability to review the forms online. Again, if you have problems using the filer, contact Atrix for questions or your tax advisor for tax advice.